Hello everyone, it is so great to have you here. A very big welcome to my channel. If this is your first time coming along, a massive welcome to you. I hope that you really enjoy this content and that you find it insightful and uplifting. If this is you coming back to watch more content, or a returning viewer, a massive big welcome to you as well. My name is Gemma Lonsdale. I am a prophet, a speaker, an author. You can find my book down below. I'm going to put my link tree in, and that will lead you to my book, all of my other media channels, and all of the other information that I might put out there. Okay, so you'll be able to find all of that down below. It's in the description under the video. Okay, now today I wanted to share with you something different, a different type of prophecy, and also a little bit more of my own journey as well. God had shared something with me in a dream. So I'd had it in a dream, and I was also told the same information from Chester, who, I don't know if you know who Chester is. Chester had been with me for about 5 years in spirit, and he is like a conduit for God to come through to me. So he is one of the ways that God will actually communicate with me. And I wanted to share a little bit about the information that was shared in order for you to benefit and actually apply it to your life as well. And before we get on to that, anybody who is new to watching me, and even some people who have watched me for a while, may not be aware of the challenges and the turbulence that I have actually come through personally in life. I call it my 7-year tribulation. I've had a really, really challenging period here in my life. My whole world has fallen apart and been rebuilt, and fallen apart and been rebuilt so many different times. And I actually have I'm on my 3rd cancer diagnosis from within that period as well, which thankfully God has said that he is going to take my cancer off me. So I know that I'm going to live a very long life. But I wanted to make you aware, I'm not somebody that is just sitting here sharing words with you that have been given to me. I have walked through the fire as well myself. And whilst I may not have directly experienced what you have experienced in your life, I'm coming from somewhere where I've had to walk through my own hot coals. I've had to go through my own transformation, and I know how hard it is to face the demons that we carry. And actually, sometimes even the hardest part is realizing that we're carrying trauma and we're carrying demons that need to be addressed in order for us to move forward in life. And it can be quite uncomfortable. Now, the dream that was actually shared with me, I'll share that with you first of all. I actually dreamt of a friend of mine, and she was in bed next to me. Beds normally in dreams can mean like an intimacy or a close friendship or connection. And she had thought that I had something nice of hers, like a chocolate bar. And I said, no, your chocolate bar is in your backpack. The backpack being the baggage that we would be carrying through with us through life. And I instantly picked up that it was about the sweetness. The sweetness in life is in the trauma that we actually carry. And a few days later, I had sat and I have conversations with God. I have conversations with Chester. I gain a lot of wisdom, both for my own life and both for the collective as well, for all of you guys. And what he had actually shared with me was the fact that the sweetness that we are seeking in life can only be found in our traumas, in those things that we carry with us, in the burdens that we have carried through life, or the burdens that we are carrying through life that we're completely oblivious to. Now, you might be listening thinking, oh, I'm not carrying anything like that. Like, I'm really, I've got a good life. I don't carry. We all carry things. All of us carry things, and we may not be fully aware of it, but there's always something there. And whenever we think that we've processed something, there's always just a little bit deeper that we can go with it, or we, needing to revisit it in some way. I talk about it as an onion. We look at the onion and we peel it back and we think, oh, well, there's a layer there, there's another layer there, there's another layer there. That's exactly the same as what we experience. And actually, our trauma isn't always just attributed to our life either. Our traumas and the things that we carry and the energy that we carry within our body can be attributed to our ancestral line as well, the things that our parents have have actually experienced, or the grandparent has experienced, or the great grandparent even. Now, it's really interesting to know that on a scientific level, this isn't just something that I'm hearing from God and sharing with you. That actually matches with science as well, that the traumas and the beliefs and all of these inherited patterns can actually be passed down. So there's been a number of different significant experiments that have actually shown that. And whenever we recognize that we do have trauma living with us, the next thing is to start feeling comfortable with exploring that. We naturally want to shy away from dealing with any of those icky feelings. We don't want to be getting involved in anything that's going to press on hurt, or is going to cause us to cry, or is making us feel triggered. And funny, actually, my daughter is 11, and she started to become more aware of current trends and things like that. And also myself, from watching different things online, we often talk about, oh, that triggered me, that really triggered me. I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and she was saying about the person that she works with, was saying like, oh, you've really triggered me. And we can't actually have control of the external world and how that is going to impact us. Well, I'll rephrase that. We can't control how the external world is going to treat us. We can't have foresight necessarily of somebody coming and saying something to us is going to be a terrible thing, or somebody coming on TikTok in our, we're flicking through TikTok or Instagram shorts, whatever it might be, and we see something that instantly triggers us. We often can't predict those things, but we have to just roll with the punches, so to speak. But how we relate to a trigger is very, very telling. If we are feeling emotional, if it's something that we are shying away from, or it's something that causes us to feel a certain way, or elicits like a really significant emotional response, or a thought process that causes us to get angry, that's very telling. And that would signify that there is an undercurrent of some sort of trauma that hasn't actually been addressed. And our natural inclination is to shy away from those things. Oh, well, you triggered me. I don't want to be triggered. I'll just shut you down. And actually, what I would really encourage you to do is to reverse that a little bit, because the trauma that we experience and understanding those triggers that we're feeling within our body allows us to actually process them. And once we start to process them and offload them, and sometimes it takes us to experience things over and over again, that is when we start to become more neutral to it. And we can almost like offload that. Hello, Rosie, my little dog's just looking some attention here. We can almost offload that. If you think of your suitcase, you're carrying that through life. You've got various different traumas and triggers and different things. And trauma doesn't have to be something big. Trauma, whenever I'm talking about it, it doesn't have to be like a big T. It doesn't have to be the cancer diagnosis, the grief, it doesn't have to be that. Trauma can be, something small. Rosie, go back into your bed, baby. Trauma can be something small that is, a kid, whenever you were in kindergarten or in nursery school, and they took the toy off you and the teacher scolded you for, something. It could be something that you've been misunderstood for, something where you've been deprived of something. And it could be a really insignificant thing, but our minds can build it into something much bigger. So whenever we lean in to those experiences, that is where the good stuff really comes in life. That is where we, yes, feel uncomfortable at the time, but whenever we work through it, we come out the other side and we can feel absolutely amazing. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen in, a journaling session or in a moment of prayer or, in a counselling session. I'm not saying that it's going to happen as quickly as that. It could be years before you're coming out the other end. All I'm trying to tell you is that it is worthwhile actually sticking with this. It is so worthwhile to actually stick with this. And whenever I actually look back through my own journey, I spent a lot of time repressing stuff. My first cancer diagnosis, for example, it was business as usual. I wanted to carry on life as normal. I was going to continue to work. I was going to continue to date. Everything was going to be just tickety boo. And what I hadn't realised at the time, and you may relate to this as well with some things that you have experienced in your life, I was glossing over things. Yes, I was acknowledging that I had cancer, but I was just trying to shove it down, and life is going to continue as normal. And the positive attitude that I had back then was actually quite toxic. Toxic positivity, let's call it. I don't know if anybody has already coined that term. Maybe I should trademark it before before anybody catches on to it already. But yeah, there is this toxic positivity that, we can be positive and, positive all the time. And actually, that's not what real, spirituality is about. It's not what real holiness is about. It's not what real connection is about. Real connection, whether it be to ourselves or to the divine or to a friend or something around us, we need to be able to allow ourselves to freely express and feel all of those traumas that we're carrying. We need to be able to allow ourselves to feel those dark days and those hard times. I have absolutely not got to where I am in life by thinking, well, everything's fine, everything's tickety-boo. I have had days and weeks and sometimes even months where I have struggled to get dressed. I have had times where I've struggled to take care of myself. I have struggled with the motivation to prepare good meals. I have struggled with wanting to connect with people and to go outside. I have struggled with my work. I have struggled with my connection with God. There's so many different things that I have struggled with on my path that every single moment of that, should I have just been able to accept it, if I'd been able to accept it in the moment that this is a tough day, or this is something tough that I'm experiencing, I need to create some space for myself and acknowledge how I'm feeling and allow myself to feel that way, I would have felt so much better. And because I resisted doing that for so long, because I thought, no, I need to be really positive, everything's fine. I was so fixated on how the world might expect me to turn up and the version of me that I wanted to portray to the world. And actually, I just needed to give myself a big cuddle and tell myself that it was okay to process that experience, to feel the emotion, to allow it to come up. And I've definitely noticed a pattern the longer that I've continued to do this, and I still get emotion coming up now, but I can contain it a lot better. It's not as it doesn't impact me in as much as what it did before. Before dealing with something traumatic or realizing that there was something coming up, and I would have been crying and it would have wiped me out for days and sometimes weeks. Now I'm able to acknowledge that something's coming up. And there's a bit of a pattern. So something comes up, I might cry about it. I feel it in my body. Sometimes I feel it in my back. And I would feel it coming up, and I get into that space energetically. And this may be different for you, but a lot of this you may be able to relate to. I get into this space energetically where I can sort of feel myself like I'm a bit sensitive. I'm a bit, if anybody was to raise their voice to me, I'd probably burst into tears again. I have this period that tends to be quite short now, to be honest, where I'm just feeling a little bit like I want to cuddle myself and shield myself from the world. And I maybe don't want to go out into public too much, or even socialize that much with people. And then that's the integration period. That's where the energy is starting to integrate, because the tears and the upset that I've had has been me unpacking something from my suitcase, offloading something that is no longer serving me. And my body then integrates that. And then I start to feel on top of the world. So that's the cycle that I would typically be going through. At the start of my journey, that was a really profound cycle, like I said, and it was, maybe 2 weeks, sometimes even longer, where I was really knocked for 6. Whereas now I can typically get through the process in 3 to 4 days. So sometimes even quicker. I can go through that purge, that emotional purge, get things off my chest. Then there's the integration between my sort of spiritual self and my physical self. And then I seem to be back in business, but in a much more robust, better version of myself. So it's really, really important that we do lean into that. Some of the strategies that I use, I do rely on God a lot, but God wants us to be willing. He wants us to actually show up and do the work ourselves. It's not just about handing everything over to Him. When we trust Him and we trust that everything is going to be okay, that, in my mind, makes everything a lot better. My faith has helped me move mountains in my own life. So I lay on God and I put my faith in that, and that everything is going to be fine. But He still wants us to turn up and do some of the work. We're not bystanders. We're not bystanders. I can't say it. We're not bystanders. Yeah, I did say it right. I don't know why I thought I'd said that wrong there. We're not passive participants in life. He wants us to be an active participant, and He can lead us. He can be there to support us, but He needs us to actually take control and do something proactive to tackle our challenges. I meditate. I read the Bible. Not every day, not all the time, but I do find it really inspiring sometimes. But, you know, if I'm feeling guided towards something, like I had been dreaming of Revelations for ages, and then I finally thought, okay, like let's sit and read this. Like God's wanting me to read Revelation, so I read it all in the Bible. But whenever we're feeling guided to do something, we can often find some sort of inspiration or clarity within that. Prayer is another good thing. Prayer is something I don't do enough of, but prayer and asking for the support and the guidance and for everything to be okay, whatever you want to put in your prayer. Meditation, I mentioned. Journaling is a really good thing. I do a lot of writing. I write every day. Not, all of it is published. Very few pieces of that are published. But I get the words out, and often I'm typing, and as I'm typing something or I'm asking myself a question, I answer it. As the words are flowing out onto the page, I'm answering my own question, and I know that that's often coming from a higher power. And counselling, therapies, walking in nature, there's so many different things that we can do for ourselves that can help us actually deal with and process, but we need to be active participants. We need to actually show up as well ourselves. Pay attention to your dreams as well. Your dreams will be an amazing source that can help you understand your world and untangle things in a so much better. I can't even begin to describe to you how much my dreams sometimes confuse me, but in most cases they actually enlighten me and help me with things, okay? So I want to leave it there. I really hope that has helped you understand the importance of digging in deep and leaning into those emotions. As much as you might want to run, in the opposite direction, any challenges and any hardships that you come up against, or any time that you were triggered, it is there for a reason. It is helping you to understand yourself more. It is helping you to lean in and offload some of those things that you were carrying with you that you're probably not even aware of in many cases. And it will help you become a better person. Undoubtedly, that's not to say that you're not enough at the minute, as it is, you absolutely are, but we can always improve on who we are, and leaning into that and doing the self-reflection work is a really important way to do that. And it also helps us to develop a stronger connection with a higher power. I use the term God, you might use the term source, universe, or something else entirely, but it's all about exploring faith in a way that is right for you and exploring yourself in a way that feels comfortable for you rather than what someone else has told you that you should do. So these are all just suggestions. If you feel inspired, then please take them on board and use those within your own life. And I would love to hear from you all in the comments as well on the success that you've been having with it. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.